Right now, with tensions escalating in other parts of the world, the debt is going to continue to balloon. This was an estimate of war spending since 9/11. 8 trillion of that 36 trillion, which just seems like imaginary numbers at this point in time, was due to wartime spending. And it's looking ever increasingly more likely that there's going to be, unfortunately, more U.S. war involvement. This feels very much like 2008 and the war in Iraq and all the lead up to that as well. It feels very much why Bitcoin was here in the first place. It's setting the stage again to have the excuse to print or create the excuse to print, whichever one necessarily came first. Trump approves Iran attack, but has not made a final decision. Unfortunately, we see that as well. And then you pointed this out to me before the show, Gary, as well too. I wonder if you can give us a little information here from Seymour Hersh.
Yeah, according to Seymour Hersh, who has a pretty good reputation, he wrote, "This is a report on what is most likely to happen in Iran as early as this weekend. According to Israeli insiders and American officials I've relied upon for decades, it will entail heavy American bombing. I have vetted this report with a longtime U.S. official in Washington who told me that all will be, quote, under control if Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei departs. Good luck with that. Just how that might happen short of his assassination is not known. There's been a great deal of talk about American firepower, targets inside Iran, so on and so forth." And then he goes on to say that the delay, as in not bombing immediately but waiting until this weekend, has come at Trump's insistence because the president wants the shock of the bombing to be diminished as much as possible by the opening of Wall Street trading on Monday.
Absolutely horrendous. No, unfortunately, I think that things are going to get worse, that the money printers and the military industrial complex are going to basically spin up and go into overdrive. And then ultimately, if you're not in Bitcoin, you're going to feel that pain. So continuing on, we have the conflict and we have some cybersecurity, some financial infrastructure security things going on. Suspected Israeli hacker claims to destroy data at Iran's bank SEPA. We had an anti-Iranian government hacking group with potential ties to Israel.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? It could have been the Maldives. You never know.
With a record of destroying destructive cyber attacks on Iran, claimed on social media posts on Tuesday that it had destroyed data at Iran's state-owned bank SEPA. Again, this is another reminder that one, the money in the bank is not money, and two, it's not yours. And additionally, this is a centralized server. You're using a bank's ledger to keep a record of what you have and what somebody else has and what everybody has, what transactions are going on there. And if you have that choke point, there's always going to be a risk. The only immutable ledger, the only one that is safe is Bitcoin. Every other one of these has a throat to choke, a target that can be hit. Continuing.
So
yes,
Nathan,
Gary.
You're saying that I shouldn't leave my money in the bank. I can just put it on a Bitcoin exchange and leave it there instead, and I'll be fine.
Oh, Gary, thank you so much for bringing that up. No, exchanges are also just another centralized server. We had this as well. Iran's biggest crypto exchange just got hacked, but the attackers didn't steal the nearly 100 million of crypto. They burned it on purpose. A little bit of a... Yes, a little bit of a, I hate saying this, it's like, gift to the network, but kind of under terrible circumstances. But yeah, they stole from the exchange and they burned it. Over 90 million was drained from Nobedex, Iran's largest exchange with 6 million users. But instead of laundering it, the hackers sent the funds to a vanity burner address. We got, fuck terrorists right there. The money is now permanently gone, is lost forever, cannot be accessed again. And again, going to the same reason that you don't necessarily want to have your money in the banks or trust the banks, or you cannot trust the banks. That's why we Bitcoin in the first place. You cannot leave your Bitcoin on the exchange. You must take it in self-custody. Ben has a plethora of tutorials. Start working your way through that. I bet nobody watching this is still making that mistake. But if you are, guys, it's time to start learning. It's time to start improving your Bitcoin skill set. Additionally, again, cyber attacks, financial attacks are going to be part of the ongoing escalation. Your money's not safe there. And unfortunately, a lot of people treat the stock exchange like it is a savings vehicle as well, too. And even that, I don't know. Yeah, right?
Oops.
I don't know if this is a accidental hit or was a targeted hit from Iran on Tel Aviv, but we have Israeli stock exchange in major escalation of geopolitical tensions. Iran fired multiple missiles into Israel on June 19th, targeting key cities, including Tel Aviv and Beersheba. One of the major sites reportedly hit was Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, a key hub of Israel's financial system. According to reports, the stock exchange building suffered considerable damage. Again, things are going to get worse, right? We see the monetary order kind of crumbling and has been for a long time. Every reason why we're in Bitcoin since even its inception is still here, but it really feels like things are escalating at this point in time. In times of conflict and instability, this is where you want to be. And the price has been unbelievably stable as well, too. We're still above 100K. It has not been shaken by the ongoing events. Gary, all this, what are your thoughts, man?
I mean, it's just one more reason that nothing stops this train because, if you think money printer was going burr before, I think they're going to pay for this war, which apparently not only is the U.S. just doing the usual support of Israel, but we're going to start actively bombing Iran as well. So somebody's paying for that, and it ain't the people doing it. It's you and me, John Q, taxpayer.
Yeah, it's gotten just unbelievably ridiculous. And it seems like, at least the nice thing is, actually, I'll pause for just a second. I kind of want to get your thoughts on this as well. Something that's struck me, and maybe it's just kind of like the echo chamber that we live in. It's just kind of what we see on the day to day. I get to hang out and talk to the Bitcoiners, so I have people that kind of share my worldview as well. But so, for example, I saw that interview with Senator Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson regarding the regime change in Iran. And I'm seeing a lot of posts on X and other places as well, too. It feels to me that, unlike prior times, in the lead up post 9/11, in the lead up to the Iraq war, that the public sentiment for getting involved, even the public sentiment, like, look how much support Elon had with Doge, and then his very public falling out with Trump there over the big, beautiful bill bullshit that went through, that I feel like they're still going to force this shit down our throat. Dollars will ultimately flow into Bitcoin. Purchasing power will ultimately flow into Bitcoin as a result. They're going to force potentially another conflict, as well as continued fiscal irresponsibility onto the people. But it feels like culturally, Bitcoiners have more of an impact, or at least the culture is more starting to align with that kind of ethos. What do you see, man? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think amongst Bitcoiners, I definitely see a lot of folks that are kind of objecting to this, the idea of let's go jump into another war. And I think, part of it's Bitcoin, there's a certain ethos with it. And part of it, admittedly, is just decentralized media. You can't just have the government come in and put out their talking points and have just 3 major networks and maybe 1 or 2 cable networks just kind of parrot it all and support it and, prep for war. But it doesn't seem like we're even trying to do that anymore. Back in Iraq, there was like before they went in like 2003, there was like a 18-month buildup, to kind of make the case for war, to manufacture consent. Now, I mean, never even mind a congressional declaration of war, which is sort of in the pesky Constitution thing. Now we're just going to jump.
Thing? Do people ever do that? Okay,
I don't know. That's old hat. That it's passe. Who needs that? Now we're just going to jump in and do it. Whatever be damned. And yeah, there's definitely a lot of objections to it. I'm happy to say more so than I might have otherwise expected. But we'll see. I just there's going to be a lot of people around the world suffering, and I certainly hope that we don't get blowback here. But that sort of thing tends to happen, and we'll see.
We'll see where things progress. I think it's a really important time right now for Bitcoiners in particular, that even if we can't necessarily have enough impact or influence to stop these things from happening or to de-escalate the situation, that I think it's important that Bitcoiners are vocal about Bitcoin, about the network, about kind of the getting away from these conflicts and kind of those, those kind of Austrian values that kind of come along with at least the libertarian side of Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is for everyone. We're gonna have people here with different viewpoints, but it's one of those moments where I think that necessarily speaking up won't impact change in the way that we want to. However, when things inevitably go wrong, that the purchasing power and the dollar continues to inflate and devalue, that there's destruction and mayhem for possibly unnecessary reasons, that will at least have the credibility to say, like, we tried to point out to you, and hopefully we can have more of an impact, the next cycle as we go through this, man. It feels very Fourth Turning-esque, and unfortunately we have to get through the hard times to get back to the strong men make good times. And Bitcoiners are those strong men, right? Bitcoiners are those strong people to hopefully have that influence and to rebuild things from there. But
and I was going to say, a great way that Bitcoiners can help with this for the first time in history is you don't need to try to convince people or try to vote out the wrong politicians or whatever. You can actually make a difference by getting your wealth out of the fiat system that pays for these wars, putting it into Bitcoin, which benefits you, hurts the fiat system. Every little bit can make a difference, and it becomes only a matter of time before these governments just can't pay for their bullshit anymore.
Let me break this down for my fellow Bitcoiners. In just 8 weeks, I've seen a serious shift. More strength, more energy, and fast muscle gains. The reason? FITSCRIPT. They ran 124 biomarkers, blood, hormones, inflammation, and built a fully custom plan: nutrition, training, supplements. No guesswork, no templates. This is functional medicine meets precision fitness for high-performing men who want sovereignty over their health. If you care about optimization the way you care about your money, test, don't guess. Don't trust, verify. Hit the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen to check out FITSCRIPT and see what's possible.
If you've been around Bitcoin for more than a minute, you've definitely seen something made by CryptoCloaks. Since 2017, they've been the go-to for badass 3D printed Bitcoin gear, from custom home mining rigs to sleek hardware wallet mounts that make your setup look pro. I've been stacking Cloaks gear for years, and most recently I grabbed their Gamma case for my miner. Let me tell you, it turns some heads. You can customize everything, and of course, the legendary Bitcoin grenade, yeah, that's them. Hit the link in the show notes or scan the QR code to visit CryptoCloaks.com and stack your own custom Cloaks gear today.
Now, talking about the escalating war, changes in the monetary system, what are countries going to do? They're going to feel insecure. They're going to have some issues. They're going to want to protect themselves. And again, I think from the opening, I think when Russia was kicked off the SWIFT system and their US dollar assets were seized, I think that was a major warning that that isn't a safe place to keep them. So where else might you keep them? Well, historically, I'm wondering if you remember this, Gary. This photo and these photos circulated around a long time ago as well, too, that back in 2003. Now, I do believe, if I remember the story correctly, it was like verified, or like all the stuff was taken to Kuwait and was later returned to Iraq. But still, when there's military conflict going on in the world and gold being a tangible asset, it kind of has the weak point of being a tangible asset.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the George Clooney movie Three Kings. I know how this works.
We had, in 2003, American troops seized 868 million worth of gold bars from a truck in Iraq. These are their photographs and their findings featured in Saddam Hussein's gold vault. So, again, if gold's not the answer, if treasuries aren't the safe place to be, where are these countries going to naturally pivot to? So, you guys might recognize this fine gentleman right here. Michael Saylor is just to the left there. We got breaking: Pakistan's finance minister and state minister on crypto just talked with Michael Saylor about Bitcoin. Now, for anyone that might not be familiar, it's not necessarily completely hostile, but the relationship between Pakistan and Israel is not necessarily great. And so again, having something that people can't seize, having something that might benefit from war money printer go burr is not necessarily a bad idea. And I think we're going to, again, guys, I am a anarcho-capitalist. I am not a fan of any government. I hate all states equally. That's my opinion. You don't necessarily share that, but I think that they're going to ultimately come in, that they're going to get involved in Bitcoin, but governments, again, at the end of the day, are just people, and that it will eventually lead to a better world and ultimately the downfall as well, too. When you can't, I had a wonderful conversation with Canute about this. When you can't steal money, taxation doesn't really exactly work. So we got a long way to go, but I still think it's important for the overarching journey. So let's hear what Michael Saylor had to say.
Time today. I'll stay in touch with Bilal. I would offer you just one final thought, which is it's a global economy. Pakistan has many brilliant people, and a lot of people do business with you. My company had less than $400 million to invest, but the markets gave me $40 billion because they trust us. And so the most important thing is leadership, intellectual leadership, and that they trust you. If the world trusts you, and they hear your words and you speak articulately, the capital and the capability will flow to Pakistan. It's there. It wants to find a home. And that's what happened with our company. Our success is because we were clear and committed. And once the market decides who the leader is, they get behind the leader and they send their money to you. And I think they'll do it to Pakistan too. You have the most important thing, which is you have a commitment and a will and clarity here. So I look forward to working with you.
Right. And recently we had also at the Bitcoin conference, Pakistan announces Bitcoin strategic reserve. Head of Pakistan's crypto council announced on May 28th that the country is moving to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Again, new monetary system, global neutral asset. Seems to be the kind of the way that things are going. Speaking at Bitcoin 2025 conference in Las Vegas, Saqib said that government of Pakistan followed the United States lead in establishing a Bitcoin strategic reserve and is embracing a pro-crypto regulatory policy. Now, Gary, I want to get your thoughts on this, but one thing I do want to point out that I think is kind of the benefit that maybe isn't necessarily always seen by people as well too. Again, I'm very much so in not getting on a political soapbox, but I'm an anti-war kind of person. That's my biggest thing. I just don't want to see violence or conflicts. I don't really care about either team. I just want to see peace and prosperity and people not being hurt.
Yeah, how about no blown up kids? That'd be a nice start. That'd be great.
It seems like a low bar, low threshold there. And with this too, the point that I want to make is that everyone's moving towards Bitcoin, they're all trading with one another. If you to take a extreme example, but I still think a relevant one, you look at something like the historical relationship between England and France, right? And how those countries just kept going back and forth with blows and kept fighting and never once seemed to be able to kind of get on the same page. But as soon as countries start trading with one another, as soon as currency and goods pass over borders, bullets and guns stop, right?
Yeah.
That essentially that is the end point. That when your incentives are aligned, like I'm better off, like you don't have to be friends with somebody to trade with them and still benefit from it.
Yeah.
That it is moving to a more peaceful world. And again, that's my position. It's not gonna be shared by everybody. Number go up is great too, but I like to see these sort of advancements. I think it moves us in the right direction.